You might have grown up in an environment where you were told you gotta be a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, or a failure. And those felt like the only options that you had. But a lot of people have defied tradition and they have created their own paths for themselves. What you're about to watch is a recap of some of the moments from our entrepreneurs right here on Visionary Voices. They did not necessarily follow the regular path. They created their own path and they are successful in their own right. This is for you. Enjoy.
Higher education is, honestly, it is the religion of the Western world.
Yeah.
Right? We are so bought into this ethos and we so feel like, you failed as a parent if your kid doesn't go to a good school, et cetera, that we don't really stop to question. So the question that a lot of people would ask me is, are you saying you'd be better off without the MBA than with?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, all things being equal, having the experience, having the degree, having the training is better than not. But all things are not equal, because in the not scenario, I would have close to $100,000 back and I could have spent more than a year of my life doing other things. So am I better off with it than I would be with the other things that I could have constructively done with that time and money? No, I'm absolutely not.
Or better yet, we don't know.
No, I can say with confidence. I'm not.
Okay, why are you so confident in saying that?
Because, now I'm more than 15 years later, and I have a much broader sense of what is the wide array of things that I could do with that amount of time and with that amount of money. There's no way that it was a good investment. Here's the thing. I think that is true of most people, except most people don't want to take the personal ownership or be self-starters in doing that exploration of what can I do and how can I drive my development. And essentially, that amount of time, that amount of money is a very heavy tax that you pay for the decision not to be a self-starter.
Mm-hmm. My parents, they grew up in the West Indies. And my dad had to leave the country in his upper education. They both grew up, their parents were indentured slaves. They worked on sugar plantations in the West Indies. They had come over from India as indentured slaves. And one of the things with growing up in the sugar plantation, their kids actually got to go through the British system of schooling.
Okay.
So went through kind of O levels and A levels, and they would write exams. And based on those exams and how well you performed on those exams would kind of dictate what schools you could get to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So they performed really well, and they got the opportunity for the actual sugar plantation. They sent them to school in England. And based on that, going to school in England, they got to come back and went into a professional job, and they migrated over to Canada.
Okay.
So what my parents really gave to me was, you will go to school and you will take it very, very seriously.
That's very typical of immigrant parents, yeah.
Exactly. And number two is that that heavy, work ethic of a culture. You're going to put in a lot of effort, but since they had seen kind of the upward migration, that your work pays off for itself.
Yeah.
So I think that what they would say is that, one, you're going to find someone who will try to outwork everyone and will bring that every day. It's kind of tireless, but at the same time, it's all that other cultural aspects that come into play, that the people that you're surrounded around are very important as well. And we all grow as a community, and it's important that we take care of one another, and those personal aspects are important as well. So I think those elements would be, I hope those elements would be talked about as they'd ask you, who is Avi? How does Avi do things? At the same time, as I think about where I came from, they don't mince words too, right? There's not a lot of niceties. If you're doing something that's wrong, you'll know that you're doing something that's wrong. You don't always know that you're doing something that's right.
Oh, yeah.
You won't always get the accolades, hey, good job. You'll definitely know that you're doing something that's wrong. So I think that's where I come from, is very open communication, but open communication with love as well. That you're giving this not to hurt this person, but to help uplift them, to help develop them, so we can go further, faster together.
It's funny to me because I never ever thought this would be my full-time occupation. I thought I would be ministry, like worship leading, doing Bible studies, touring for that, which I was. But one thing I love is that business genuinely causes you to think. And many people run business and don't think. They don't take the time to sit down and challenge their brain. And so that's why the business often stagnates and gets plateaus. But like I always have my own coaches that I go to. I coach other business owners. But more than anything, I will sit back and I will just sit with God and I just think. And out of this thinking place, we get ideas, and then the ideas will actually impact lives and transform people. And it's incredible the opportunity we have. And I want to say this because some of your people may be listening and going, yeah, but my business is a product-based business.
Yeah.
Because I've seen this where sometimes people who are product-based business owners feel like there's less of an impact element because it's not as service-based as something like coaching or consulting would be. And so for those of y'all who are listening, who are product-based businesses, what I would say to you is you do have impact because your product, like there's a heart with which you create it. There's a heart with which you not just put it together, but you market it. The language that you bring to your client, the way that you have your customer service. There's certain products that people connect with as part of their identity. You literally see people like Apple.
Yeah. And
some people are like, I am an iPhone person. I don't have an iPhone. And iPhone people will be offended that I don't have an iPhone. They will defend the iPhone like they are Steve Jobs himself. Why? Because there is a identity that's been curated to connect with this product and this series of products. And you're able to do that for your product so that your product is much more than just a thing that they use. It's a lifestyle. It's something, it just connects to them in a deeper way. And with thinking and marketing and language and sales, you're able to get that across to your client.
I actually did not want to be an entrepreneur. The only example of entrepreneurship I had growing up was not a positive one. So,
okay,
growing up, my parents moved to Canada when I was 14, and, immigrant parents, they had a hard time finding a job when they moved here, partially because they didn't speak the language, partially because their credentials were not accepted. This is probably, true for all of us.
Yeah.
And so growing up, I just wanted to do great in school, get amazing degrees, and, have a good corporate job in a reputable firm and never get fired and just continue to climb the corporate ladder.
And you did that?
I did do that, yes. For the first, I want to say 15 years of my career, that's what I did. And then at one point, I was probably in my early 30s, and we were starting to plan a family, and, I'm looking around. I was in consulting at the time. A lot of people in consulting, they're traveling to projects, and, I see my senior managers and my partners, they're, rushing out of the office at 4:00 to be able to pick up their kids from daycare or school or what have you. And then they're coming back at 7:00 at night and back to work for the next, their night shift. And that was the norm. And I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to continue doing once, we were started to think about having a family.
But our circles tend to be very small.
Okay.
Right? How many people do you really go to for God? You go to your parents, you go to your, aunts and uncles, and when they give you advice, they're not giving you advice from their thorough, objective survey of the marketplace and landscape. They're giving you advice from their impressions, which is formed by their experiences and what they've been told. There's a lot of commitment and consistency bias, right? We don't want to, it's hard to do that objective analysis. Not that they couldn't, but, they didn't. I didn't ask them to, right? They gave the best advice off the top of their head that they, that was their picture of the world. And the only person who made a mistake is me. I'm the one who didn't, I could have asked better questions. Okay. I could have dug into, what informs that advice? What makes you think that is true? What are the assumptions? And I didn't. And I don't. Here's the thing: I don't believe in regrets. I wouldn't be sitting here probably today in front of you if I hadn't gone through all that.
Yeah.
But it's not because of, it's in spite of, right? In the sense that, I was so horrified by what a terrible investment it was. I was like, there's got to be a better way to do things.
You got to make something out of this.
Yeah, and I did, and I'm very happy with what I built. That's kind of like someone, if the Super Size Me guy is like, wow, I can't believe how bad McDonald's is, I should start a healthy food chain restaurant. Then he builds it up and he's like super successful. It's like, okay, great, but he may not regret having eaten nothing but McDonald's for a month. That doesn't mean that you can credit that with his success.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
For more insightful conversations with entrepreneurs, check out this video right here. I think you'll love it. Continue to enjoy, and I'll see you there.